Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about the month of February. And the most positive thing about the month of February is that all of the planets are now moving direct. No more Mars retrograde or Mercury retrograde or even Uranus retrograde. They're all moving forward now, which means we can look forward to a lot of forward movement because we have been feeling like everything was stagnant, nothing was happening. How can we get things to start moving? Well, they're going to start moving now. This is the month of forward movement and progress. You're going to be feeling that personally in your own individual lives, especially with the things that you have been feeling like have been stuck for so long. So before I get going with everything I'm here to talk about for this month, I want to remind everyone to sign up for my free newsletter. You will get all of my predictions delivered written to your email address. Go to galacticcenter.org. And while you're there, remember to check out my new magazine, Joni Patry's Astrology Insights. Comes out every month. And we have got some spectacular articles for February to keep you in the know of what's going on. So with that, let's get going and start talking about what we can expect for this new month of progress, things moving forward. So one thing that's interesting now we have to look forward to is that Saturn is in Aquarius. It just entered into Aquarius and it's here to stay for about 2 years. So with that, you're going to see so many things change for the better. Saturn, while it was in the last degrees of Capricorn, just really brought out a lot of difficult things from the past because it was reviewing. But now we have this forward movement of Saturn. But I do have one thing to say about it. It is coming up to create, well, for the United States, it's been happening for a while, but it's coming really direct on to conjunct the moon in the United States chart that I use. And this is that the moon for the US is 7 degrees of Aquarius. And Saturn is making its headway through this sign. It's moving at a lot faster speed than it has before. And before the end of this month, we can expect Saturn to just about be exactly on the moon for the United States chart. So what is that? That's called Sati Sati. And it is considered a really, really difficult time in anyone's life when Saturn comes back to the moon. Actually, they say Sati Sati is 7.5 years because it's actually in effect in the sign before where the moon is, the sign of the moon, and the sign after, and that takes 7.5 years. But trust me, when it's in the sign of the moon, that is when it's at its most intense. So another thing about this month that I think is so important about talking about that Saturn coming to the United States moon is the fact that towards the end of this month, we have a new moon, February 20th. And that new moon is very significant for the United States because that new moon will be at 7 degrees of Aquarius. I have a lot to say about this. And this particular degree, 7 of Aquarius, aside from being the moon for the United States, it also sits on K2 in President Biden's chart. So I thought that was so significant that we have transiting Saturn hitting that degree. Plus, it's the degree of President Biden's K2, 7 degrees of Aquarius, plus President Biden's moon sits at 7 degrees of Aries. And on top of all of that, we're going to have a new moon, February 20th, that is going to be at 7 degrees of Aquarius. What does all that mean? All of this is all happening at the same time towards the end of February, which means there is going to be an explosive event in the United States that's going to change the political reign for a while. There's going to be all sorts of uprooting and uproar and things going on. And on top of all of that happening, which is huge, we have Mars transiting out of bounds. Have you ever heard of that? Well, let me explain what that is. In measuring how the planets, how we can see their degrees and their conjunctions and how they all come together in the heavens, we look at something called the longitude, the latitude, but the latitude is more about declination. And declination is determined by where the planets are from the ecliptic, from our vantage point. So if you look at it by declination, Mars is at an extreme declination, meaning it's way out of the perimeters that we track the planets. So we call that out of bounds when it's in a very extreme declination. It's out of bounds. And this isn't something that's totally rare, but when it does happen, the planet that's out of bounds, whatever it represents, is out of control. And Mars is the planet that represents anger, energy, life force, ambition. But for world astrology, for what's going on in the world, it does make people angrier, more hostile, and yes, it can promote issues around war. Now, Mars is out of bounds from January till May. So we're right in the midst of this Mars, right when it starts to move direct. Now it's out of bounds. So things are going to start moving forward in the energetic field on planet Earth, but it's going to get more intense. All the things that people have been angry about are going to pretty much get more intense with Mars being at such an extreme declination. Now, I want to say with Saturn is moving fast, but I want you to pay attention around February 16th because Saturn is going to exactly conjunct the Sun. Now, this does happen when the Sun's transiting once a year. This isn't a rarity, but it is a heavy feeling around that time. Things feel heavy. Everyone kind of feels like we feel something's about to happen. We don't know what. But let me tell you, February, action-packed month, there is going to be an event in March. When I did my world predictions that I recorded for the entire year, you can still get those, by the way, if you go to my website, galacticcenter.org. You can purchase my 4-hour prediction talk. But I said March would be one of the most difficult months of the year. I've got a lot to say about March, so be ready to watch what I have to say about March. But there is so much happening that this year is going to be monumental with change, as you probably can feel. The change is upon us. All the things that we've been thinking about happening, possibilities, yes, it's going to happen. March is going to be the big trigger of everything. But let me talk a little, we're going to get to March next month, but let me talk about what's going on for February. There is going to be so much coming out about the government and the corruption with money. Why do I say that? Because we have a full moon February 5th that is going to occur in Cancer. And if you look at the United States chart, which is so accurate when I'm making my predictions, this full moon will be occurring in the 8th house of the United States chart. Of course, this will happen once a year that we have a full moon in Cancer, but it's in the 8th house. and it's going to bring out a lot of the hidden secrets about government cover-ups, particularly dealing with money. Watch how February through March we're going to get the answers that we haven't known about, but we suspected for a long time. There's going to be proof. And then moving towards the new moon on February 20th, as I said before, it's at 7 degrees of Aquarius. This is the United States moon. This is a new beginning. Remember, a new moon means something new is being birthed. The seeds are being planted, and we're going to see some major change come out of this. But let's talk about that particular new moon on February 20th, because it sits in the nakshatra called Shatabhishak. In Vedic astrology, we have the 27 nakshatras, and what gives those nakshatras their meanings are relative to the stars in that portion of the zodiac. And this particular portion is called the 100 healers. And it always has something to do with hard to cure diseases. And a lot of discoveries are coming out about medicine and healing. A lot of scientific research is being done, and discoveries are here. I think it's all coming out, and we're going to start seeing some changes in medicine. And most of all, one of the hardest to cure diseases happens to be mental disease. And we're going to start making some headway with understanding how to shift and heal the hardest to cure diseases of all, mental disease, addiction, things like that. There's going to be some new awakenings in this field of discovery with the new moon being at 7 degrees of Aquarius. So another thing that this healing has to deal with are drugs. So Neptune has just changed into Pisces, and this brings out all of the problems that we've been having with illicit drugs coming across the borders. This is going to be big news, and all that's been behind it. And I do think we're going to have some issues. The United States is going to have issues with Mexico concerning this in the month of February and March. So another thing is Shatabhishak is also called the Sky Watcher. And it deals with everything to do with out in space. It deals with our technology and advancements, with space travel, with what we're learning is in space. And of course, I'm always talking about aliens. They're here, but more discoveries concerning them will be valid and coming about within the next couple of months. So this is really good and big news. So another thing is about this Sati Sati that I've been talking about. There's going to be 3 exact crossings of Saturn over that 7 degree point, which just so happens to be the United States moon. And I know you think, well, why is she always talking about President Biden? His chart is being so heavily affected the same time the United States chart is being affected. So there's going to be more and more things coming about. Another thing that I've mentioned in my world predictions, this is true, that Kamala Harris's chart takes off in a positive light for her. So you're going to see some big changes this year, 2023, because Saturn is going to be crossing over this moon of the United States, March, September, and December. Those are the big awakening times. But the heaviness that's going on for the United States with Sati Sati will be starting to be felt heavily in February. This is a huge transition. So let's talk about the last time, remember Saturn takes 28 to 30 years to go through the whole entire 12 signs of the zodiac. So the last time Saturn crossed over the natal moon in the United States chart was 1994. And then the 28, 30-year time period prior to that was 1964. What was relative in those years? Well, in 1964, this was like 6 months after the Kennedy assassination, and the country was healing from this riveting, unbelievable event. So there was massive healing. And going to 1994, I looked to see what was actually happening that year. So much happened. There was well, first of all, there was the O.J. Simpson case where Nicole Simpson and Ron Goldman were murdered, and Kurt Cobain was killed, or suicide, whatever you want to call that. And we also had the Northridge earthquake. And I suspect all of these things are going to be similar. Again, we're going to have more mass hysteria with racism. We're going to have more mass hysteria with very famous people that will die. And the next thing we're going to see is, and I want to prepare everyone, there are going to be some major problems for the airlines coming up. March is the month that I see major issues with airlines and fatalities and problems and being just all sorts of with the computers, the programming, trying to with radar, with airlines, it's going to go out the roof. We've been having problems, but we haven't seen nothing yet. March is going to be that turning point. I'm going to give you some valuable information concerning that. But we're going to start seeing in February where this is leading us. So everything is starting to shake. So get ready. This is an incredible month for change. For political change, 2023 is going to be the year. And yes, it is global. There's the war, everything. There's going to be some new information that comes out that shifts the way we feel about all that's been happening in our world. So racial intolerance, earthquakes, airline crashes, we're looking at a huge, huge shift in politics. Get ready for what's about to come. And as I said, this month of February, as Saturn and the Sun come together, it's going to be difficult. Now, around February 15th, Venus is going to go into Pisces. It's exaltation sign with Jupiter. And always remember, I'm a Vedic astrologer. I'm talking the sidereal zodiac, not tropical. So these are the true placements. But as Venus goes into Pisces, it picks up enormous strength with Jupiter. And this can be a very spiritualizing experience because Jupiter and Venus together in Pisces, even though they can cause issues for each other, they're arch enemies, those two planets, but still they're so strong in Pisces, and this can give us vision and truth and healing, most of all, and finding cures for diseases. This is the most exciting thing, and expansion with inventions, with travel in space. So even though we have some very difficult things, we have, balancing it out, some very positive things that give our humanity, especially Saturn being in Aquarius, hope and change, because we can't continue the way we've been. And this is going to give us the hope and the change that we need. So by March, Mars is going to go into Gemini. That's not till March 12th. It will be there. I'm going to be talking about this in great detail. March 12th through May 10th. There's going to be all sorts of realizations with the corruption with the media. That's going to be coming back for us to focus in on. But remember this, because Mars is in Taurus still this month, and K2 is in Libra this month, Venus rules both those signs. And as Venus comes together in Pisces, exalted with Jupiter, there's going to be so many new discoveries, and especially people really seeking out spiritual truth. Spiritual truth. They're looking within. So this is a month, because all the planets are moving direct, by the way, that you will have the energy to create your dreams, what you've been wanting to do for so long and felt so stuck. Why can't I get anything to move forward? Now is the month that you can start realizing your goals, your aspirations, and your dreams with the forward movement and Venus going into this powerful position. Venus will actually be, it's going to go into Pisces. Let's see here. It's going to go into Pisces this month. And I have February 15th through March 12th. And that is a time that you can really look forward to manifestation and spirituality, working on ourselves. This is the most important thing I have to say for this month, and this is going to shift and change consciousness and awareness on planet Earth, and boy, do we need it. We need for all of us to focus in on what we have felt like we couldn't get anywhere moving forward in achieving our goals, our dreams, manifesting our aspirations, forward movement. Have the courage to do this, because when you do, it's going to happen. Yes, this month's going to have a lot of social uprisings, but here's the fact. The truth has always been coming to the surface, and now we're going to be free to really do our own personal work on ourselves that's going to create the lives that we're all seeking. And that will be the change you want to see in the world, because that's what we're capable of this month with all of the forward traction and movement and courage and inspiration. So even though all these things that have been building are finally going to explode and happen, hey, it's been needing to happen for a long, long time. And these things that are about to explode are going to free us and give us the truth, so that now the world will be a much better place. So with that, I think I'll close. Go to my website where you can learn more about all that I'm offering and all of the workshops that I have coming up. I'm going to be going to Australia in April. So if you're in Australia, get ready. I'm going to be delivering a very long, beautiful talk. And one more thing I want to mention that I can't believe I didn't mention in the very beginning. I have a brand new book just come out, and it's called Astrologer Secrets, My Best Tools and Techniques. I am very proud of my new book, and it is a compilation of all of my years, 40 years as an astrologer. What truly works in a birth chart. You won't want to miss this book. It's the accumulation of all of my 40 years of practice. So check it out on Amazon. Astrologer Secrets, My Special Tools and Techniques, and they work. So with that, I'd like to close. Thank you.